The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to Old Space Show. I'm Brandon, and this is my companion, Tony.
Hello.
This series of Old Space Show follows the episode-by-episode time-traveling, body-hopping exploits of the first season of Quantum Leap. Today we'll be talking about the fourth episode, The Right Hand of God.
Serious.
Yes. On October 24th, 1974, Sam leaps into Clarence Kid Cody, a boxer on the take from Sacramento, California. Sam must learn how to fight so he can win the heavyweight boxing championship in order to provide a group of nuns who own his contract with the money they need to build a chapel for the poor. Sam also must face the bookie, who counts on him to take a dive in the first round of the final bout. To add, he and stripper girlfriend Dixie are saving for a donut shop and are hounded by another bookie named Roscoe for their funds. With the help of several trainers, some streaking, and Al's appearance in the ring to guide his punches, Sam wins the bout and finances the chapel. He's found the best of it all by having Dixie place the betting money on the Muhammad Ali-George Foreman fight he knew the outcome of. As Sister Angela apologizes for doubting him and thanks him, he leaps to an old farm holding a pig and standing in mud. This is directed by Gilbert M. Shilton. He's got a load of a career of TV, A-Team, Magnum P.I., V, MacGyver, Ray Bradbury Theater, Twilight Zone, the 80s one, Cop Rock. I'll throw out there, Cop Rock, Beverly Hills 90210, Degrassi, The Next Generation, and do you remember Together with the number two?
Of course,
the boy band comedy with the Farley brother was in it. Yeah, he directed two of those. It was written by John Hill, who wrote the film Heart Beeps. He did additional writing for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the film Little Nikita, the show L.A. Law, and the Tom Selleck amazing Australian Western Quigley Down Under. So,
there you go.
Yeah, so it stars Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell, guest starring Guy Stockwell.
Hey, I recognize that last name.
Brother of Dean. Michelle Joyner, who, if you watch Cliffhanger, she was not able to hold on to Sylvester Stallone's hand in the opening of that. Terry Copley, Louis Arquette, and John Grease, the great, wonderful, talented range John Grease, who was once at my holiday party for work.
Oh, there you go.
I know people, Uncle Rico, we know, but he has, from the 80s on, he has such a career.
Well, he's so talented that he is technically uncredited in this episode because he comes back in season 3 as a different character.
Yes, he does. Yes. Yeah, he's uncredited in this. Yeah, just the guy all over. He's so good. He can be really funny. He can be threatening. It's just amazing to watch. And he looks like he's never aged almost a lot of times. Yeah. He's been bald since we've met him. That's kind of the thing. But yeah, we got a nice cast of characters here with all, Arquette, the patriarch of the family and all that.
Of course.
Coming through. But this one, it's boxing. That's one of the most cinematic of sports that you can have, and
it's so interesting because you see early on these themes with each of these episodes that essentially Belisario and his creative team were like, you know what, I saw a really good movie about this, and let's like this one was like, I saw the movie, the movie about the guys and the boxing and the hey, like let's make a show about that. And then a few episodes later here, we're going to have one about Godfather. I saw a movie about a Godfather. Let's, just kind of take movies and like, let's just tweak it just enough to avoid copyright infringement and make it into a TV version.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you had at this time, you had Rocky and Raging Bull were both highly touted movies. And this one, even they have a Rocky montage where they take the Quantum Leap soundtrack and play it in a Rocky style to it. And it's fun. You kind of know how it's going. It's got its own little mob angle added to it, which Rocky had a mob angle, but it wasn't as threatening one as this one is. And it also plays with the Catholic Church and boxing hand in hand. Like those seem to be tied together in movies and television a lot.
And it's so strange too. I found it such an interesting approach for them to take so early on in the entire series to do this dichotomy of religion versus science, because it's very much a sciencey, the quantum leaping and this, time travel aspects. But then we're going to throw, let's talk about religion too, because why the heck not? You have this very, very interesting disparity. This episode for me really drove home the point this early in the series that each episode was not necessarily all going to be heavily focused on Sam. There are the supporting characters that are really only here for one episode get the center stage, particularly with the nun, Sister Angela. She gets this whole subplot about her parents and things like that. And it really gave these people a chance to really act their brains out before they were never seen never seen again the rest of the series. So
yeah, they started going, okay, let's write a movie where he's not in it first, and now let's toss him in it. Like that's kind of they're figuring out. Like, and it's as early too. This is this wasn't the this is when this one comes in our third, but it was I can't remember I know one of the episodes we're going to talk about later. It was shot second, and it got placed further down the road. But
yeah, that's Double Identity, I believe.
Yes, Double Identity was it ends up being the sixth episode. But they seem to be onto the whole. The first two were Sam related, and now here we are dropping him in. That's what I like about like Doctor Who. I love when there's like a sci-fi movie going on, and he just happens to wander into it and kind of is an observer, and then slowly gets involved. I like when they do that. With those. But yeah, here he could find any movie that he is. And I'm wondering with the nun approach here, do you remember the Father Dowling mysteries?
Oh, sure.
That was a popular show. And I'm wondering if this had any like, nuns and Catholic Church mystery television shows are in. That's a weird time. The Father Dowling mysteries. And it was on primetime TV, not one of the religious channels or anything else. And it was popular. I believe it ran a few seasons. So I'm just, I'm wondering if that had a little influence of that being like popular, because I think that show started that season and this was a mid-season replacement. So that it would have been, throw nuns in. Right. Yeah. It's a very interesting. Yeah. It's interesting to see. I'm always just for any show, really, I'm always intrigued how production order gets changed around in terms of, actual presentation order, because I imagine it's strange to the actors as well to see that they had, literally done something in a different way, mentally thinking that they were going to be more, have their characters more evolved by then and things kind of flip around. So yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, that's part of being, I guess, the actor. You're prepared for that. I mean, it's still difficult, even as professional as you are. You're like, okay, so I'm here. Oh, the script changed in the process after I filmed this later episode. Great. But did you think, like, early on, was there supposed to be a little something going on between Cody and Sister Angela that I was like, oh, this might be where this story's going? Yeah, for a second, yeah, because she's real outgoing, which is kind of not always a character trait that you see in just people in general, that kind of have that bubbly, like I like everybody, because she was very friendly with him very early on, and obviously they have this, he accidentally took his pants off in the after the match, and the sister wandered in. I mean, obviously they went for
cheap Catholic joke, but then you felt like there might be more. Like, has this happened before? Is this something that one of them wants? So yeah, it's
just the way she eyes him too. She's like, it seems like it's more of a respect, and he represents a hope for her, I think, than me looking at it romantically, because I guess think darker in terms of drama. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be the conflict, and it's not. What he does a couple there is Dixie, his stripper girlfriend, who looks kind of like Debbie Harry-ish, and there's some temptation from Sam there in this, because she is comes on strong to him, but she's also got a good-natured heart, and really is, even though she's like that stripper and stuff, she's all for their life and believes in it, and there's no rockiness with the relationship, only with his boxing, what that brings to it. So
and you definitely see here too, building pretty much every episode so far in this first season, including the next one's few the next few to come, is that Sam, no matter what happens, Sam always finds himself in a quote unquote relationship, with a different lady. And obviously he's trying to ride that fine line of not getting involved, but every episode, there's a gal that he's shacking up with or kissing, or literally has just leapt into, as they're finishing up or whatever. So
his leap schedule is like a serial monogamist. Like that's what he's always getting into. And I think Dixie's fun. She's a fun character. I look at the actress; she didn't do much. I'm like, she's got presence. She stands out.
Right. Yeah.
Really lights up the screen. I don't think maybe a lead actor, but like I think she had like definitely really good character actor vibes. But she was good. She was excellent playing off of Sam. I thought was I thought it was she was wonderful. It was very standard, kind of that 80s 90s character with the blonde, big hair, dancer, whatever you want to call it. So, but also kudos to the writing team for early on kind of having Sam have that moment where he's like, you're not just a stripper, it's like that's like a legitimate profession, and that was obviously nowhere near being talked about on any sort of real level. And this is the 80s too. That's like if you like the 80s, like you kind of sort of got like a little pass if you did some like nude topless scene in the 70s, but if you were doing in the 80s, they didn't want you. Like, even if you were doing like a horror movie in the 80s, that was risky to your like acting career, like these weird things. And to talk about stripper and to say that, hey, you're legitimately making money, don't think that's really way ahead of its time. I don't think the 90s would even be like that.
Yeah.
With things. So it's always a joke thing with people. Oh, I'm dating a stripper. Oh, well, I was looking down controversy, and he seems to be okay with it and knowing where they are, because maybe he realizes that his person he's in would probably be okay with it. So he has, I don't know. But yeah, that is pretty ahead of its time writing right there. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I do like this has really good drama regarding the fight, because we know Sam doesn't know how to fight.
Right.
No matter how much he trains, he's going to fight someone who's got the skills. And it helps with the bankability of people thinking he might throw the fight watching him. Because like he used to be so good, but like, it really brings a whole different angle to a lot of the drama, which is great.
Well, and then add to the fact that then Sam makes the mental decision that he wants to win the fight. And then it becomes even more challenging for him, because this person he's boxing against pretty much knows in his head that he's, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know how far the match throwing goes, if both fighters knew about it or not, but it seems like ostensibly this other fighter would know that he's going to win. Right. So then when Sam starts to really fight back, he's got to be an extra dose of like, what the hell are you doing? Where is this coming from type of thing. So.
True. Yeah. And the first fight, it's a thrown fight, but in his favor, because he barely taps the guy and he falls down, and they acknowledge that pretty good. Definitely. Yeah. Good drama. The coverage and editing on the fighting was impressive for television as well. Like it could have worked as a movie even.
Yeah, I'm not a huge boxing aficionado. I mean, I like sports a lot, but I've never really been a boxer. But it definitely entertained. It kept me captivated. I wanted to know kind of, how that process works. And, and they kind of showed everything from start to finish with the announcements and the traditional tapping of the gloves and all that stuff. So they didn't seem like they embellished too much for TV. It definitely, it felt like a realistic approach.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, boxing like this, is one, more entertaining than watching regular boxing, and two, it's more entertaining than watching boxing like this get filmed. I was a background actor in Rocky Balboa, and during the fight scene, I was at the MGM Grand, or it was no, it wasn't the Grand, it was the Malibu Bay or whatever that one is, and holy crap, it was like 2 seconds of cheering your damn heart out. Stop. 2 seconds. Stop. And Stallone was directing it too, so he wanted to see everything. So it'd be like you'd watch this intense 5 seconds of fight, and boom, and then get excited again, and then it was crazy. So watching it on your TV on a movie screen, amazing. That's the best boxing. Right
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I'll say that. There was something really clever here, where there's a bar that gets visited a couple times in the show, and on TV. So when he's getting pressured about throwing the fight and the gambling on the TV, he's watching. First, there's coverage of the Watergate trial,
right?
Which that's a continued through line from the previous episode.
Yes.
But there's cover of the Watergate trial. Then there's an advertisement for the Muhammad Ali George Foreman fight. Kids, that's the grill guy.
Right, yes.
And then there's a new story about that streaker. And if you put them all together, that's what Sam does. He has inside information to bet on that fight and throws a streaker in there to help with his fight. Like all three of those things that ran during that one time was his plan.
Right.
When he did that.
So I don't know if they're trying to be, I don't know if they were just kind of saying maybe he picked those ideas up, or I think they were kind of saying he knows his most important bits throughout history, and he sort of reuses them. Obviously, much like the betting on the very specific Ali Foreman when the eighth round knockout type of thing. It's very Gray's Sports Almanac. Back to the Future 2,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Where you take your information that you have and use it.
This is
That's true.
Back to the Future would come out that summer, I believe, or was it in the fall? I can't remember. But yeah, this is the same year. They beat him to it because this would have been in the spring.
Yeah. Well, this was the episode too where they started to do a lot of those kind of. I mean, I know they had done it before with the whole Watergate thing, but they started to throw even more kind of sly references to what you're going to see. Like this in this episode when Sam first leaps in and he's disoriented and Al shows up and Al says, Ziggy was trying to predict where he's going to end up, and Ziggy said that Ziggy's way off. He said he would show up as a farmer in the 50s, and that's where he ends up in the next episode, right? So they're already kind of weaving these threads throughout, which is really cool. So yeah,
definitely, I like that. Yeah, that was one thing I thought about. I was like, wow, they were really. Like I said, the light serialization feels like heavier serialization, but it's really light touches. Right. But it's pretty cool.
And then, although even to them, again, we were just talking about how these are aired out of production order. So maybe to them, this episode had already happened when they made that reference, or it's going to happen in the future. So yeah, it's very who knows how they wanted to do it, but certainly it ended up being a very cool little thing. So
yeah, definitely. And I'm continuing to be impressed with the sets and locations and the general vibe that they're doing. I mean, this is 15 years when this is filmed. This is 15 years after this date, but between 74 and 89, visually, pop culture, what the world looks like changes quite a bit, and they're able to pull it off convincingly, even when they're on location. The sets, I mean, a lot of the sets don't feel like sets. Like that boxing gym looks pretty genuine, although it's probably fake in a set. But I mean, they're doing a really good job with making it bankable and real.
Sometimes if you're in a TV or even a movie and you are shooting something that has just recently happened, that 5 to 15 year mark, you can sometimes get very lazy and be like, oh, it looks close enough to today, people won't really notice. But yeah, they kind of went the extra mile to make sure that they kept things era appropriate instead of getting quote unquote close enough, so I do appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, definitely like it. And one other thing, I love the line when he first meets Dixie and she's like, oh, I made your favorite, and he's like, I really like my favorite. It's one of my favorites. And I was like,
favorite.
It's my favorite. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. The way Bakula delivers it too. He's He's still just so good. Like always, every episode, some confusion has to happen with him, and he handles it so in different ways so well. And his compassion for people, and just like you just can't not love Sam. Like that's
right.
That's great.
He's a very they did a good job early on of establishing him as a very intriguing and a very nice mix of not only like, he's got 6 doctorates and he could have easily gone like the super nerd, like socially awkward route, but he's definitely, he has that human element where he genuinely seems to care about the people that he's interacting with, which obviously is part of, I think that's also intrinsic to what he knows he has to do in order to get to the next leap is genuinely put himself in the situation. But he seems like a nice person all around, which I think is key. So.
Right. Yeah. He's got a great balance between like, science and humanity, like, or emotion and stuff like that. Because, there is a point where I think he believes there's he makes a reference in another episode where he kind of might believe in a higher power, but I think he thinks there's a higher power that controls time, not like a religious God type power, but he thinks there might be something like that. But yeah, he definitely does a really good job of making sure that the human factor is always thought of, despite what Ziggy's calculations give.
Sure.
Good. Any more on this one?
I'm curious, and I'm not sure it's ever been said. Maybe I'd have to go back and watch the director's commentary, or maybe it's never been said. I'm genuinely curious how Guy Stockwell ended up on this show. Like, was it Dean saying, "Hey, please put my brother in here"? Was it just one of those things where Donald, Belisario was like, "I want to use, who do you know?" Because I mean, he was hilarious as Jake the Big, running the operation thing. It was hilarious. I loved him, but yeah, I'll always be curious to know how he ended up on the show.
Could be both. Sorry, he was big and like a huge TV star, as like more so like a guest star person than being lead role, but like just a laundry list career. It was probably he was probably around auditioning at the time. They're like, oh, just grab him. It's Dean's brother. This would be cool.
He'll be fine.
And early on, and at the time, I think he was a bigger quantity entity than Dean Stockwell was.
That's very possible. It's interesting. You kind of follow that rise and fall. And I know that Guy has been, doing this for a long time. I mean, his listed credits goes, is fairly extensive. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like you said, he's always been kind of one of those background type of, where you recognize the face, but you don't necessarily know his name. You don't necessarily know much about him, but you're like, there's that guy, right? So,
which, I mean, Dean is luckily, I mean, the thing with him is the stuff he did in this time becomes, as time goes by, that becomes some of the things people love a lot. And when, geek culture and film culture rises up, he's in Lynch movies, he's in Quantum Leap is something he's known for, like Dune, that's Lynch as well, but that's a notable sci-fi movie of that era. He's got a lot of stuff that, well,
that's one thing. The genre is always, the sci-fi genre in particular is a very familiar in terms of, if you've done something on one show, we would love to have you on this other show. You see Stockwell come back, obviously, in the Battlestar Galactica remake. He and Bakula got to act together several times, Star Trek Enterprise, things like that. So these other, sci-fi is definitely one of those genres that they like to kind of make those little nods and winks from property to property, which is a very cool thing.
Yeah. Sci-fi, horror, they both, I mean, they're both very curious. Like I used to tell my friends, my actor friends, when I was out in Los Angeles, I'm like, go audition for that shitty horror movie. Trust me. The right person's going to see it. I mean, people know you from that and want to put you in this, or, conventions. If you were in the right one, you could make a career off weekends at a hotel.
Oh, absolutely.
Signing autographs and pictures. Like that's how a lot made it. And through that, they grow up, they hire you. I'm really interested. Granted, he's not lowly or anything, but as a much older man, what Jack Black's career is going to look like, because he's done a lot of really popular, really good children's movies right now, and they're the ones of those that grow up to become. He's going to have a resurgence.
Absolutely,
I can foresee it for sure. All right, well, that'll do it for today. I think we've made right where other conversations about this episode once went wrong. Tony, tell people where they can leap to find your work.
Sure. Well, you can always come check me out on sciencefiction.com. I do a lot of the content there from day-to-day basis. And then you can find me personally pretty much anywhere socially you'd like to come. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Tony Schaab. You can probably still track down my MySpace and Friendster if you really want to go down that well. But I probably have some really terrible old blog posts there. So let's maybe scratch that last part.
All right. Hashtag because of Leap Dixie. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. Written work at wiseoblue.com. The Brandon Peters Show. No, there's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week. But from Old Space.
Oh boy.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.